but it's 12 o'clock on a Thursday. And you know we always talk with Evie Van Pelt, the sweet, the lovely Evie Van Pelt at Ole Miss. Evie on the Twitter. Don't forget, follow at The Rebel Walk and go to therebelwalk.com for all your sports information. They are your number one source. Bring in Evie Van Pelt. What's up, Evie? How are you today?
I'm doing great. I feel like we hadn't talked in forever, so I'm so excited to be here with y'all.
Thank you for being excited. Last week we had a little technical difficulty.
It happened.
It was one of those shows, man. I was treading some water last week.
Well, I told you. I know folks loved getting to listen to you for the whole time, so...
All right. Now, I got to ask you some wonderful questions because everybody's feeling a little bit excited right now. Just kind of like those butterflies. SEC Media Days are right around the corner. First and foremost, who's Lane Kiffin taking up to Nashville with him?
Well, it's interesting. I think some people might have thought maybe a quarterback would go. Sometimes that's kind of common, but not with Coach Kiffin. We have got Quinshon Judkins. So don't you know, everyone will be wanting to hear from Quinshon.
If he didn't go, with the media revolted?
I think the media just might have stayed in Oxford and hidden around to try and find Quinshon anyway, because everybody wants to hear from him. Since he was a freshman last year, we really didn't get to hear from him. So really looking forward to that. And he's also taken senior defensive end Cedric Johnson, and Cedric actually is this will be his second year in a row to attend, and he was wonderful last year. I really enjoyed getting to talk to him. He had some injuries this past season, so we'll see how he's doing. And then DeAndre Prince, the senior DB from Charleston, Mississippi. He is kind of the veteran in the room, and I'm really happy for him that he gets to go.
SEC Media Days again around the corner, and you mentioned that the quarterbacks are not going. How many questions do you think Lane Kiffin's going to have basically about his quarterback situation? Spencer Sanders, of course. You have Jackson Dart, and then the young man from LSU, Mr. Walker Howard, in there. What do you think? How do you think Lane handles the questions, and what do you think he's basically going to say?
Well, it's funny. I've seen so many different media outlets say, here are the questions that Lane Kiffin will not answer at SEC Media Days. So I think we all know that quarterback one is going to be one of them. I think even if he knew, it would be silly of him to tip his hat to the teams he's going to face on the schedule first. But I think he's going to be asked about that a million times. And what I've noticed is I think when a reporter asks and doesn't get the answer, then he might try to follow up in a different roundabout way. And then so do all the other people. So I expect him to get a whole lot of questions on that. And we're fortunate the Ole Miss media relations makes it possible where we, the local media that covers Lane Kiffin, will have like a separate session with him before he goes out onto the main stage. So we'll be in one of the suites or something there in Nashville and get to visit with him. And I mean, I'm sure all of us will be asking the same thing, and he'll give us the same, not answer about that. But really, really looking forward to it. It's funny, a lot of people, I think, in media get a little tired of media days and such, but not me. I'm excited. It's like I'm going to be a kid in a candy store, and it just means it's that much closer to the kickoff of the season. So I'm excited.
Yes, I love talking season. And plus this year, the fact that it's at the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville, like I love me some Nashville. And, the cool thing is, the Rebels don't even take the podium until Thursday. Maybe you can sneak out and enjoy a little bit of Nashville on Monday and Tuesday.
I know that sounds good. And, I usually try. I always want to see what Nick Saban has to say. And I might have to force myself to be in there and listen to what Jimbo has to say, just to see if he throws any barbs at anybody. Be ready for that.
Well, that's the first day. LSU, I think they're kicking things off with Brian Kelly. You also have Missouri with Eli Drinkowitz, and then Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M. I thought it was fascinating since you brought up A&M, and we'll be hearing them from the first day. It felt like Sonny Dykes was throwing a lot of shade at basically Oklahoma and Texas today. He didn't say them by name, but he talked about how's Missouri look over there in the SEC. He talked about, are they competing for championships? And he's like, Texas A&M was a competitive program. Not so often now. If Jimbo Fisher has not a very competitive year this year again, is he, like, even with that huge contract, could you see him out the door?
I absolutely can. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't have been surprised last season. And I just say that because I know how much money, the expectations. And I know, as a graduate of A&M, I know how much money those people have. They have so much money that, again, all the folks telling me, oh, well, they couldn't buy out an $89 million contract or whatever. I'm like, hold my beer, because I think really probably they could. So I suspect if he had another 5-7 kind of time, or 6-6, I don't know. I think that the seat could get very, very warm for Jimbo.
Who do you think has the hottest seat coming into this year, especially going down to media days? Who needs to put up or shut up?
I honestly really think probably Jimbo would be my number one candidate. And I think it's just he's doing less with more, more facilities, more money, that number one recruiting class that he had. If you believe reports that said it was a $30 million class, I don't know about that, but needless to say, they've invested a lot of money. I think they have 2 practice facilities. I mean, they just have excess. I don't know when enough is enough, but I know enough is enough has not come in the form of wins yet.
I was telling you, maybe you're have to get out on the town a little bit. But then I thought about, Tuesday you can't, because I know you're going to have to listen to Hugh Freeze in Auburn, first year at Auburn, the former Rebel. I mean, I think that would be kind of fun. And then also your rival Mississippi State, the first time Zach Arnett's going to take the podium. So there's going to be Tuesday's pretty packed.
Right, it is. And, so I think there's something for everybody on every day. And I'm looking forward to it. Last year, I think Kiffin was the only one who came out and he wasn't wearing a tie. And, he talked for a while about how liberating it was. He was wearing a suit, but he wasn't wearing a tie. And he said, why do you have to wear a tie? Think outside the box, create a new box. So Kiffin is always going to be entertaining. But you're right about Freeze. I want to hear what he has to say and see how much of it is similar to what I heard, covering him for a number of years at Ole Miss. So that'll be fun too.
Speaking of thinking outside the box, you always think about Lane Kiffin on 4th down. You think about, by the way, Lane Kiffin's always thought about it as the quarterback guy, but again, they ran the ball right down everybody's throat. They run the ball extremely well. I expect a whole lot more from that. But when you talk about thinking outside the box, is Pete Golding going to have to change his style possibly a little bit, coming from Alabama, where there was 1 million 5-stars on the defensive side of the ball? And I mean, Ole Miss has their they have their 5 stars as well. It's just they're not as deep. Does he have to change a little bit?
I think so. I think that, listening to some of the players that we've had an opportunity to hear from just over the summer, they've talked about Golding and what a big factor he was in their decision. And a couple of them we've talked to have said, we're just going to have a really attacking defense. He's going to put us in one-on-one situations so we can create mismatches and maybe make some plays behind the line of scrimmage. And I think, really and truly, the Golding has brought in some players. There was a 3-star defensive back that some Rebel fans were like, "Oh, why are we getting we want a 4-star, we want a 5-star." But Golding made it known to someone. Yeah, said he's the top kid, and so I think that we're going to see some adjustments. Yeah, I think so. I think definitely 4-man front for a lot of the time. That's going to be something different that fans will be excited to see. And, but, it just sounds like from everything, everybody, obviously you want your defense to be physical and attacking, but it looks like that's been key points of emphasis so far.
Well, another big key point about, with SEC Media Days right around the corner is, of course, their commissioner, Greg Sankey. He's been extended. He's been in charge since 2015. How important was them to lock him up a little longer?
I think that's a real key thing, and it's funny. I don't know that most of us prior to COVID maybe walked around with much love for the commissioner. I don't know that we didn't have love for him, but I don't know that, it was really much of a thought. But I think the way it just still will always stand out to me. I think he's in his ninth year in the SEC, so he's been involved with a lot of innovative things. But just the simple fact that we had college football in that COVID season when nobody else was going to do it. And I think the only reason everybody else ended up deciding to do it was because Greg Sankey said the SEC is going to play football. So, I think everybody will forever be grateful to Sankey for that. So I think that was very important, especially as we now start to have to navigate NIL and collectives and all that. So.
And it's, those aren't just just think about, not even that, but he's also added, Texas and Oklahoma. They're going to begin next year. That's another great grab. And I think he closed out that agreement with, what was it, Walt Disney Company?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
he's got him the money. He got him through COVID. He brought him a little Texas, a little Oklahoma. You can't complain about the man's job anymore, can you?
Yeah. And I think, 2023, the SEC schools recorded 8 national championships and placed the most schools in the top 25 among all conferences in the Learfield Cup standings. So I think I read SEC schools have won 48 national titles since he became commissioner in 2015. So, you can't argue with that.
When everything goes to 12, which he was also a big part of college football expansion, going to 12 for the playoff, how big is this for someone like a school like Ole Miss?
Oh boy, it's absolutely huge because I can see, while it's so hard to break into that top 4, as it has been, the top 12. I think if you're a competitive team in the SEC, I think
if you finish second in the West, just think about a few years ago when the Ole Miss went to the Sugar Bowl. They're
right.
in probably.
Right. That's what I think, and so I'm just super, super thrilled about that and looking forward to that. I think it's going to make it really fun for a lot of people to watch, even more so than it already is. But yeah, I think when, again, and I've said this before, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think when you're paying Lane, $9.5 million and he's in the top 10 highest paid coaches in the NCAA, I think, a top 12 finish is not outside of the realm of expectation.
Well, for all these things to go forward, and like you mentioned, the transfer portal and now NIL, the game has changed. We're going to 12 in the playoff. A lot of things have become different. But again, one thing that always makes sure you continue going forward is money. There's been a little bit of change in the collective down in Oxford. Can you fill me in on exactly what's happened?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it came out yesterday, the Grove Collective, the Ole Miss arm of NIL, is now a founding member of what's called TCA, the Collective Association. And it is a group of 7 have joined together to form this collective association. And it says they're going to serve as a voice for athletes in their best interest, provide a forum for collectives to discuss all these current issues, and provide a unified voice for collectives to kind of leverage their position. And so it's the University of Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida State, Southern Cal, Michigan, and Penn State. So that's going to be interesting to me to see how that, moves forward. And I think that, one of the things they've talked about, this new association wanting to do, is getting kind of a uniformity of agents, requirements and such, because right now, I think, kids can be represented by, just all levels up and down, good and bad. of people. Some are great, some are legit, some are not. And so this is, I think that Walker Jones and he runs the Ole Miss Grove Collective, I think, is very forward-thinking in what he's doing. And, it wasn't that long ago. I think a week ago, Ole Miss was listed in, the top 10 most, and I don't know how they determine this, but forward-thinking, ambitious collectives in the nation. So I'm really excited about that.
And now that the Grove Collective has joined the TCA and you kind of look at it, your first thing is you realize, this isn't just SEC teams. I mean, you got ACC teams, Florida State in there. You got the Big Ten with Michigan and Penn State. What do you think about it crossing, basically, conference lines?
I think that what that will do, I've read that what they're going to do, these 7 initial members are going to vote on a set of bylaws. They're going to start holding conversations with Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, along with conference commissioners and ADs. And I think that having such a big cross-section there will make them, probably have a bigger voice. And I think that they're going to be expanding. I think these are the 7 founding members, but I think that there will be more.
Oh, man, football is right around the corner next week. It's going to be next Thursday. We'll be checking everything. Ole Miss, as they'll be doing SEC Media Days. Their day for Lane Kiffin to go up there is, again, next Thursday. And also, if you were wondering who was going up to SEC Media Days, you got Quinshon Judkins, the amazing running back, Cedric Johnson, second time up there, their defensive end, and Devontae Prince, their defensive back. Evie, I got to switch gears real quick. The draft came and went, and you had a lot of Ole Miss Rebels get drafted, but my goodness, my man Jacob Gonzalez was drafted 15th overall by the White Sox.
Yes, he was drafted by the White Sox. You're right, 15th overall in the first round. And he was joined by catcher Calvin Harris, who was drafted by the White Sox in this third round. And they joined Tim Elko, who was in the White Sox organization. So,
man, we're going to have to start being the White Sox fans.
Turn it into Ole Miss North.
Ole Miss North. That's exactly right. So I think everybody was excited to see that. Of course, Kemp Alderman got picked second in the draft by the Marlins, and then Jack Doherty closed things out, drafted by Minnesota in the 9th round. So that was the good part of the draft for Ole Miss. I think the hard part was they lost some players, some high school players that they had sure hoped to be able to keep. One among them was Cooper Pratt, a shortstop. They lost him to the draft. And, it's so weird, the whole where you get picked and your slot value. Well, your slot value, I think what Cooper ended up with was, slot value maybe 300 and some odd thousand. And so some Ole Miss fans thought, oh, yay, we're going to get Cooper Pratt to campus. However, what these teams can do is they can withhold some of that slot money early if they want to. So a Cooper Pratt ended up getting not the $327,000 that folks thought, but upwards more of $1.4 million. So you're a high school kid and you get $1.4 million and you can just go play ball. I mean,
it's hard not to take that.
Yeah, who wouldn't take that all day, every day? So Ole Miss did get some good news. I believe they lost a couple of pitchers in the draft that they, thought probably would happen, but weren't sure. But they did get some good news. Xavier Rivas, who pitched last season for Ole Miss and started out the Sunday guy and then ended up the Friday guy after Hunter Elliott got hurt. Rivas yesterday said he will be coming back. He did have talks with some teams, but he was very firm on his number that he wanted in order to leave and not come back to school. And I actually got the chance to talk with him on the phone yesterday. And he said, I was firm in my number. And he said, I was real good coming back. So I'm sure Coach Bianco even took a visit to his house to talk to him and kind of present him with all the options. And so we're really glad he's going to be coming back. And we've also heard Josh Mallett, who was injured and had Tommy John, that he is going to be back. He's a closer. He had Tommy John in November, and so we're now hearing that he did not go in the draft, and he will be back. So that's a couple of bits of good news.
Well, that is good news, but I'm going to ask you, who's going to fill those big shoes of Jacob Gonzalez at shortstop?
Well, okay, I'll tell you. I don't know for sure now. I'm sure you saw that T.J. McCants transferred yesterday to Alabama, committed to Alabama, with Cooper Pratt, who was projected to be a 3-year starter at shortstop in Oxford. So for him to go on to MLB, that definitely leaves a big hole. And, you know, McCants was a shortstop in high school. I don't know how many people know that, but he was like the number 7 ranked shortstop in the state of Florida, the number 29 overall in the country. So I think he could have played that. That being said, there is an Arizona State shortstop, Luke Hill. Keep an eye on him today. I think he just entered the portal today. He is phenomenal by all accounts. I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Tennessee, not necessarily in that order, are 3 that he's looking at, and the portal closes today. So he has entered in time now. He has time to make a decision. You don't have to decide by today, but that's a big one to keep an eye out on. Other than that, I think Ethan Leger could move over and play short if they needed him to, but I think they would love to get a Luke Hill if they could.
Luke Hill out of Arizona State. We'll keep an eye out on that. Now, T.J. McCants going to Alabama, staying in the SEC, staying in the West. I'm just using him as an example. Is this something we're just going to have to get used to, going back and playing your old team basically the very next year?
I think so. I think it's just you're going to see it more and more. And, it's so interesting especially in baseball. I mean, all of the sports, I guess. But in baseball, you've got when it comes to a player and it's your next to the last year, you have a year remaining, you might go in the draft, you might return depending on to your school, what the NIL money is like there, and then throw in, an offer from another school. And I think it just makes it complicated. And, you just can't blame the kids for going, where they can get the most while they can.
I do have to say, man, college coaches today, they got their work cut out for them because, man, you gotta now be inside those kids' heads, not just in high school, but the whole time they're there and making sure that they're still committed to you.
Yeah. And, you just have to worry. I mean, if you've got a kid, I don't know. I literally know nothing about the situation with McCants in Alabama, but what if, he's been playing. I mean, he's been a stand-up kid playing in the outfield. When he got to Ole Miss, he got there, Jacob. Yeah, and you had Jacob Gonzalez. I mean, you have a first-round pick for White Sox, so Gonzo's going to play short. But yet McCants, he played in center, he played in right, and, did whatever they asked of him. And maybe he's going to get to play some short at Alabama. I don't know.
Well, Evie, do me a big favor and tell me what y'all guys are working on at the Rebel Walk coming up down the pipe.
Well, we're just gearing up, like I say, for SEC Media Days. I'm really excited about that. We're also working with former Ole Miss receivers Shay Hodge and Mike Espy in their Mesh Academy to start maybe interviewing and giving some exposure to some of the top high school players in the state of Mississippi. So I'm really looking forward to that. They train some of the top kids. And
doing a little 7-on-7?
Yes, they're doing great. Actually, they're Shay Hodge and Mike Espy's Mesh Academy won the Cam Newton 7-on-7 in Atlanta. They went to Arkansas a couple of weeks ago and won that. So I think Mississippi's going to start, stand up Mississippi. They're going to start making some 7-on-7 noise. Anyway, we'll just keep everybody covered what's going on with baseball and potential transfers in, and so stay tuned to the rebelwalk.com.
Man, Evie, thank you so much for your time. Have fun in Nashville, and we'll be checking you out at the Rebel Walk and at Ole Miss, Evie.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.